Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 6 of Psylocke, written by Alyssa Wong, and art by Vincenzo Caratu. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. Now up to this point, in the previous issue, Psylocke, in a solo mission, was doused with a hallucinogenic drug that gave her horrifying visions. But Psylocke has resisted telling anyone about these nightmares, but how long will it be before they start to affect her capabilities? So with that said, this issue opens with a man running for his life in Minnesota as a portal opened above him. And out of it came Magic saying, "Where are you going, Orifice?" And just as he saw what he was up against, Orifice let loose a massive blast at our hero, just for Magic to make him look like a fool. Because quickly, Magic used one of her portals to redirect his blast while saying, "Oops, careful. Puke into the wrong portal and you'll get a return to sender. The X-Men have been tracking you upstarts since you escaped us last time." So with that said, Orifice just narrowly avoided his own attack and stated, "But why are you coming after me instead of Trevor Fitzroy? He's our leader, I'm just a normal member." But before he could finish his statement, Psylocke came out of nowhere and kicked him straight in his face and answered his question by saying, "Because you're still an upstart. Which means you murder mutants and live stream it for online clout." So with Orifice on his back, he immediately started to try to make a deal to give up his boss if they let him go, but our girls weren't trying to hear any of it. In fact, as Orifice was talking, Psylocke suddenly started to hear a familiar song that caught her attention, and when she turned her head, she noticed that she knew that song, and it came from her home. And to make it worse, the person she saw before her was her daughter by the name Himiko. And as Psylocke looked on in horror, the young girl stated, "You used to sing me that lullaby, mother, when you thought no one could hear us. Before they took me." And then she went on to say, "You let them take me away, I died because of it. Why did you let me die? Is this what home looks like to you?" So as Himiko continued to mentally attack Psylocke, all Psylocke could say was, I didn't want to, I couldn't stop the hand." So with fear in Psylocke's eyes, her guard suddenly slipped as Orifice capitalized on the opening, and let out a blast at point-blank range. So with Psylocke down, Orifice took off running and called his boss, Trevor, to get him out of there ASAP. Which was exactly what happened, as Trevor opened up a portal and facilitated Orifice's escape. So with the mission a failure, Cyclops dropped in and asked, what was the status with Orifice? To which Psylocke had to answer by saying, he escaped. So with this failure under their belt, Quentin got pissed and said, he got away again. If you can't catch one whole-mouthed creep, then what are you even doing in the field? So with that statement out there, Magic then went on to ask, what happened back there? You just froze up. So truthfully, Psylocke answered by saying, you didn't hear the song or see the child. And after Magic answered with a no, Psylocke continued to say, it's my fault, I was distracted by a psychic echo, an impression left behind by strong emotional energy, death, trauma, and lingering regrets. Now this wasn't enough for Quentin, for he lashed out and said, that is so not a real thing. And even if it was, there's no way you could see them and I couldn't. So with that all said and done, we then fast forward to Psylocke sitting alone in the kitchen at the factory, thinking to herself. And as she sat there, her inner narration went as follows, psychic echoes, that sounds plausible enough for something I made up on the spot. But what am I supposed to say? That I'm hallucinating? That my dead daughter spoke to me, and half the time, my reflection isn't mine? I've been seeing and hearing the impossible ever since inhaling the taxonomist's hallucinogenic butterfly dust. I thought the lingering effects would fade, but they've gotten worse. With the tensions between Rogue's X-Men and ours, the last thing we need is any sign of instability. I can hold it together, I know I can. I have to, for everyone. And just as she said that, she started to get an incoming call from Devon, which she ignored, and a visit from Magic saying, you don't look so good. So as Magic sat to eat with Psylocke, Psylocke's inner narration went on to say, I like Magic, she's blunt and straightforward. I never have to wonder what's on her mind, she'll just tell me, and honestly, it's refreshing. And this bluntness was on display, as Magic looked Psylocke straight in the eyes and asked, so, what you're seeing stuff that isn't there? Now this caught Psylocke off guard, because she tried to double down and blame it on psychic echoes, but Magic just stuffed her face and said, okay, I'm not judging you. Quentin might not believe you, but that little man thinks he knows everything. He's Kid Omega, not Kid Omnipotent. Point is, maybe it's psychic echoes. But if it's not, there are lots of things it could be. Illusions, tech, demons, not minds obviously, or even ghosts. If it is ghosts, I know a guy. So just as Psylocke opened her eyes after a fit of laughter, the hallucinations were in full effect, as demonic and distorted images of her friends surrounded an unwitting Magic, asking did she had something on her face. With panic gripping Psylocke, she had to force herself to hold it together and immediately stood to her feet and made her way to the exit, saying she had to take a call. Now this mental attack was so gripping that even Psylocke suddenly felt like she couldn't breathe. And on the next page, Psylocke just continued to walk down the corridor thinking to herself, saying, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I need something real to anchor me. So like clockwork, Psylocke called her lover John Greycrow as he was robbing a bank in Montana. And during that call, Psylocke went on to say, it's loud over there, sorry to call you during work. And like a playboy, John replied by saying, it's fine, I always have time for you, is something on your mind? To which she answered, I just wanted to hear your voice. When are you coming home? And like the gentleman he is, John answered with, in a day or two, give or take. Maybe even tomorrow. Come over and spend the night? I'll cook something nice for dinner. And just as Psylocke started to calm down and felt safe, she sat on her bed just for all hell to break loose, and the hallucinations kicked in with a vengeance and hands from within the bed swarmed her and started to force her down. And once she was restrained, her shadow self emerged over her and took her phone from her hands and menacingly answered John and said, it's a date, as it crushed the phone in front of her face. So with fear and adrenaline pumping through her veins, she snapped back to her senses just to see the room back to its normal state with her phone still crushed. Now this was way more than Psylocke could handle. In fact, she found herself doubting everything. So with nowhere else to go, Psylocke made her way to the training room to seek help from the only person who she could trust, Magic. And once there, all Psylocke had to ask was if that offer still stood. To which Magic answered by saying, I thought you'd never ask, and with no time to waste, she created a portal that took them to Haven House. And once there, Psylocke, in shock, said, you didn't tell me we were going to New Orleans, this is where Rogue's team lives. To that, Magic said, I didn't tell you because if you knew where I was taking you, you wouldn't have agreed to go. Now this prompted Psylocke to point out that Rogue and Gambit may not be happy if they catch them. But Magic assured her that they won't because we're not here for them, but instead, we're here for him, Death Dream. And once there, Magic pointed out that they had met before at Greymalkin. To which he went on to say, yes, your sword sings beautifully like cries of the dead. I like the cries of the dead, sometimes, I call them to possess me. It's like being hugged by corpses. They sang me to sleep back in Kyoto. That's why I like the graveyard here. The New Orleans dead are different but familiar. They don't know my lullaby, so I'm teaching them. And just as Death Dream started to sing his lullaby, Psylocke interfered and started to sing it too. And once they were done singing, Death Dream said, you know the song too, there's more screeching when the dead sing it, but I can't hit those notes. Did they teach you the song? To which, Psylocke replied by saying, no, but I learned it from someone who's dead now. And funny enough, Death Dream answered by saying, congratulations to them. So with the introductions out of the way, Psylocke got to the point and said, I need your help, I need to know if I'm being haunted or if my mind is just playing tricks on me. And almost instantly, Death Dream said, definitely haunted. So many ghosts, you are never alone. Isn't that nice? But there is something else, there is another passenger. And when Psylocke asked what kind of passenger it was, he just outstretched his hand and said, I don't know, but if you touch my hand, I can look. And right before they could touch hands, on the next page, Rogue flew in hot and heavy, yelling for Psylocke to get away from her child. To this Psylocke spoke up and said, I'm not here to cause trouble. To which, Rogue shot back by saying, yeah, that's why you're sneaking around Haven in the dead of night instead of announcing yourself properly. Did Cyclops send you? And then, in all honesty, Psylocke answered by saying, Scott doesn't even know I'm here. With mistrust in Rogue's eyes, she then asked, and why is that? To which Psylocke answered by saying, I needed to see Death Dream. But before another word was spoken, Death Dream grabbed hold of her hands and darkness consumed him as he shouted, I see you. Give it to me, Psylocke, your heart, your soul, your everything. I want to eat them whole. And with that said, this issue of Psylocke comes to an end with Death Dream going on the attack as Psylocke's inner narration is herself if she passed whatever was haunting her to him. Now with that said, I actually like the Psylocke comics despite it not being one of the mainstream titles out right now. Because Psylocke usually doesn't get a chance to shine outside of team-based comics, and through stories like this, they are more able to expand around the character, so when we, as the reader, read the main X-Men comic, we get more of a feel for everyone's psyche, kind of like Magic's current run. Now, as of right now, the main title X-Men never really hinted at or called out anything that happened in both Psylocke and Magic solo runs, but to me it's more of a plus than a must when exploring this world. Like, I don't need to know this information, but I'm happy I do. But anyway, down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.